The holidays are over and it's time to get to the Valley. It's time to dominate. So let's get to some Braves talk. Happy holidays, everybody. It is time to get to the Missouri Valley Conference play, and me, the coach, the OG, are back with some Braves talk as we head into 2025. Welcome to the show, everybody. As I said, it's the Iceman, Matt Freites, the coach, Brad Powell, and the ever-loving OG, Rick Powell. How's it going, fellas?
Iceman, going well. Braves Nation, thanks for joining us tonight for a little Braves talk. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and enjoyed everything. And now we are ready to get back into Valley play, which is super exciting. Wes, happy to have you here and joining in. Dad, how you feeling? How you feeling about the Braves firing up Valley play?
Well, outside of my cold, man, I'm feeling pretty good about the Braves.
We've all had some version of a cold or whatever it is here recently. I mean, it's just like running rampant. There's some cold pneumonia-ish thing floating around, and then I know that my mom and stepdad and like that whole crew, they're battling like some stomach virus that's really nasty. It's tis the season, I guess.
Keep that shit away from me, fellas.
I think you're safe.
Me too.
I'm telling you what, it's the kids. The kids are what's bringing it home.
Yes.
The cesspool of America. I love my son to death, but he is a walking germ factory that is going to bring in everything and anything into this household. But it's good to see you guys. I did have a good Christmas. I hope that you guys did too, despite all of the sicknesses, and we hope everybody else did as well. We're headed into the new year, guys, and that means it's time to get to some Valley Conference play. Are you guys excited?
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, this is what it all comes down to, right? And I think it's exciting, but also, it's been a little bit since we've had an opportunity to do this, and so there's also there's kind of plenty to recap here before we dive into what lies ahead.
Yes, two really big wins. Actually, the biggest one was against San Francisco, 66-44, and an absolute drubbing of Canisius the other night. And they did lose to Santa Clara. It was a tough loss, but I don't want to actually get into that a little bit too much because we need to focus on the positive because we got Valpo coming up, a conference slate that is not going to be easy. We did a lot of talking about Drake in the chat, and so I think there's a lot of positives to focus on. But why don't you guys get down into some of the nitty-gritty on what happened over the last couple games? Two big wins for the Braves.
Yeah, and I think that one of the themes that came out of the Santa Clara game was kind of the absence of upperclassmen in their production, their productivity. The leaders really didn't play like leaders, right? The stars didn't play like stars, but that has changed over the last couple games. Seniors Duke and Zeke led the way against San Francisco to that 2-point win, hard-fought win against a good opponent, which was great. And as we discussed a lot in the chat, that's probably, at least by the numbers, by the metrics, one of the better teams to come into Peoria in a long time. So really nice to get that win over a good ball club. And then, same thing, the drubbing of Canisius, like you said, Iceman, and Darius Hannah really shows up big in that game. And Dad, I'm curious what else you might have to say about those two games, but also I want to know what you think about the change that occurred in the starting lineup with Corey Thomas getting plugged in for Almar.
Yes. That I want to get into. Thought we'd do it a little bit later, but that's all right. Hey, let's talk about Corey Thomas. And I think one of the brightest moves I've seen Coach Wardle make has been bringing Thomas into the starting lineup and sort of sitting, not necessarily as punishment, but let's face it, Almar has not been getting it done. Maybe not defensively, not even scoring. I mean, he had a good game against San Francisco, but Corey Thomas over his 3 starts averaged 18 minutes a game, just a little over 18 minutes a game, shot 82% from the field, 60% from 3. He was 9 or 11 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. 70% at the line, 7 to 10, at 12 boards. I mean, we're looking at a lot of production out of very little time with him coming in as a starter. How he stays out of the starting lineup going forward for right now. I can't see it. You know, maybe it will be, but I mean, let's give it to Corey Thomas. He's no, he's not scoring 20, but for 18 minutes a game, I mean, he's coming in and doing a hell of a job.
Yeah, and what I've been really excited about, what's made me feel good is what we saw in very small sample sizes early in the year has translated to his game in more meaningful minutes, and that's the fact that he's super efficient. And I thought we all saw that, in his shorter stints he was getting early on, and to see that that's carrying over into these 18-minute performances where he's incredibly efficient from the field. The guy rebounds like crazy. He's physical. He does the little things. And it's great to see that, and we all love Alma. We love all these guys, but I don't think it means that doesn't mean we can't be honest about their play. Yeah, we
Well,
can't.
the
Yeah,
metrics of the production is just off the charts. And let's with this, and you expect a guy coming off the bench, into a starting role. I mean, he might have some turnover issues. He has 5 through 3 games.
sure, and yeah, that's really good. And the thing with Almar currently, as his game exists, if he's not knocking down the three ball at a really good clip, he doesn't bring a lot else to the table, unfortunately, right now. He's usually overmatched defensively, and that obviously plays into the whole rebounding thing and everything else. So, if he's able to come in and knock down 4 or 5 threes at a healthy percentage, I mean, that's a different story.
He's also he's as all the other shooters, but with him, he does it himself. I think more, it's his own decision as it is the coaches. But the Canisius game, he was 0 for 1, never took another shot. Shooters have to keep shooting. That's how you get out of slumps. That's how Duke Dean got out of his slump a year or so ago.
Well, and I think that, when it comes to, like, benching a guy, if you will, I think that different people handle that different ways, and, Duke has the confidence to shoot himself out of a slump. Almar, I think he's still young, he's still growing, and maybe this I don't know if you call it benching, but it being taken out of the starting lineup, maybe he's not taking it very well. He's not responding maybe in the way that the coaching staff hoped he would, and it's carrying over into his game. He's lacking some confidence right now, but there's plenty of time for him to get back, get going, get back on the horse, back in the saddle, all the cliches.
Right.
I think we get him out there against Valpo. He knocks down a few threes, and we're off and running.
No, I think we get out
You're
there
right
and get a
at it.
little bit of a lead, then maybe he can relax and he can get his shot down, get into the flow of the game. So
Well, when you think about it, I think Coach Wardle is the kind of coach where you get put in the starting lineup, it's because you've earned it. You're not there just because you're a senior, just because you're an upperclassman. And so when you look at Almar right now, and we talked about many times, this is the third or fourth time we've mentioned that he's needs to be contributing behind the 3-point line in order to be consistently put in the starting lineup. And so if he's not doing that consistently, he's not going to be in the starting lineup. However, it doesn't mean that skill set can't still be put to good use later on from the bench. I mean, imagine if he comes out from the bench with everything that they're getting from Corey Thomas in the starting lineup, and then he gets hot, right? That's now adding value there in a different way to where these teams now have to adjust because, hey, we got this guy who's super hot coming off the bench who cannot miss. And instead of giving him the pressure, and I get it, okay, like he's in the starting lineup, he should be able to perform, but now maybe some pressure gets taken off. And yes, he's not responding well. Well, maybe that's an indication that he shouldn't be in the starting lineup right now. I mean, these are all signs that kind of lead to maybe this is the right move. And if there's anybody who knows it, anybody who knows his team, it's going to be Coach Wardle, and he's going to make the right move that's going to be the move that puts the team in the best position to win. And so if Almar is listening, which he 100% is not, he should take this as you now have a different role with this team and you can still add value, you can still contribute, and just in a different way. And I think that this may end up paying dividends, especially later on in the season. If we have guys going through a slump, he gets hot from behind the arc, man, that really gets you into a different place and you can really stay, I don't even want to say ahead of the curve, but if you have a slow start, maybe that gets you back in the game a little bit quicker.
Well, and I think that the secret to team success, to team success at the mid-major level nationally, we're talking about NCAA tournament, things like that, is playing as a team basketball. Guys that are willing to be superstars in their role, even if that means not being the guy or whatever else, And I think Coach Wardle's done a really good job at cultivating that mindset here at Bradley. And another thing I'm surprised by is, I mean, historically, he's been pretty bullish on the starting lineup traditionally. So to see him make this move, especially like as early in the season as we are, I think it was, there's probably been times in the past where we've stuck with guys longer than some of us would have preferred. So the fact that he made this move so early in the season is great. And Wes, you know what, Wes? This is a fun fact here. This is actually the Peoria Armory. It is not the field house. And I know that at one point in time this thing was floating around on Facebook or somewhere, and people were calling it the field house. But yeah, because that wall there is the back wall of the armory, and there's not, the seats on that side or whatever. But no, you're good, buddy. You're good. No worries at all. I love the Bradley history, and maybe in the summertime when the season's over, we can get one of these going and talk about some of the
Hey,
history
wait a
of Bradley
minute. People
basketball.
did want an OG only episode. You want to talk about some real good shit, and we're talking about an audiobook narrated by the OG himself.
Yeah. No, the scoreboard though does give old Fieldhouse vibes, and that's like probably the most prominent feature. I should be pointing like this way, even though it's like backwards. The scoreboard does give Fieldhouse vibes, and that's the thing that you can probably see the best on the screen. So I could totally see where that connection would be made.
So, guys, I think with all of the positivity, we also had some milestones. Duke Dean, Darius Hannah. I tried to say both of those names at the same time. Duke Dean surpasses 1,000 points. Darius is 133 points away from 1,000, which is pretty awesome. I mean, there's a lot to look forward to on this team, and I believe we need to talk about a Sweet 16 star, fellas.
Yes, we do. Marcel Somerville has been elected into the Missouri Valley Conference Hall of Fame, and he'll be inducted in there. What is that, done during the tournament?
I'm not sure, truthfully.
I
I'm
believe
sure Wes or
somewhere
somebody like
around
that
in
probably
there.
knows when that
So,
happens.
But super kudos and congratulations to Celis for that honor. Well deserved, well earned, and very much appreciated his efforts as a Bradley Brave from the OG.
Yeah, absolutely. Peoria native and a key part of the Sweet 16 team that knocked off Kansas and Pittsburgh before eventually losing to Memphis. Good team, a lot of great players on that team. A couple, obviously Patrick O'Brien went to the pros, and I know several of those other guys had successful pro careers overseas. And and what Lawrence Wright, I think, played for the Boogie, right? Played for the Harlem Globetrotters, which was fun. So a lot of good personalities and good basketball players on that team, and they were a lot of fun to watch.
Yep.
So, guys, I think we're now getting into the nitty-gritty of the schedule. We've gotten the non-conference out of the way, and I think for the most part, Bradley did pretty well in their non-conference schedule. And there's been a ton of back and forth in the chat on this show about how good that non-conference schedule is. But at the end of the day, you've got to win, and they won a majority of those games in the non-conference. And now we get into the Missouri Valley Conference, and the schedule is not going to get any easier from here. Even though the Valley looks like it's down, these games are never gimmies, and they need to show up every single game. But I want to do something a little bit fun, because as we do, we have the OG here. He is the historian, the man, the myth, the legend, whatever accolades you want to give the OG. And we're going to go contender, pretender for the Missouri Valley per the OG. So, Rick, you can do in whatever order that you'd like, but the floor is yours for the next half an hour.
Oh boy.
Hey, to be fair, I sprung this idea on him like 10
That's
minutes
fine.
before we went live. So
Even better.
I'll just try and do this off of the top of my head.
It's the best way, honestly.
Contenders.
Let's hear it.
Obviously, we have Drake. Now, a lot of these are way different than what I projected out for preseason. But some pleasant surprise. Yes, the Valley is stronger than I even thought it would be. But for our contenders, we got, of course, Drake, presently undefeated, but their strength of schedule has over the last week or so really kind of
waning.
Took some hits. But and then of course
they ruined Jim Laranaga's career. He's apparently retiring in Miami, right?
He's not apparently. He did retire.
He did.
There's only two teams left that they played that were in the between 50 and 100 that are still in that, and that's Florida Atlantic and Vanderbilt. Everybody else, at Kansas State, when they played, God, they fell off. They were in the 70s or something like that, and they're now 120, 122. So they fell off, because they lost big to Wichita State, and they dropped 20 spots in one day. So and then Miami, they're way down there in the 160s, 170s, something like that. So they're way down there. In fact, I think Valparaiso is just one spot behind them. I think so, but I think Valparaiso might be even lower than that. But anyway, so my contenders are Drake, Bradley. You still got to look at UNI, even though their win-loss record, but they've played some teams, and have lost. And this is how Jacobson every year. We all know it.
Yeah, there's a lot of consistency there, like program consistency, which is worth something.
Yeah, and they have played. Well, they gave Washington State a game. They were getting beat by 20 and ended up losing less than 10. So, and that, of course, that was at Northern Iowa. But then let's give it to Belmont. I thought they'd be down 7-8 spot, and they're right there in the top 4. And then Illinois State's starting to make a little bit of a push. But now the other end, you got SIU, you've got Evansville. I think Valparaiso right now is a little lower and more where they're going to end up being. They're better. Indiana State's to me a lot of surprise. They've played well and they've played some competition. And they are above 500.
So answer me this question: is there anyone who's had a decent non-conference? Their non-conference results have exceeded expectations, but you don't think that they are the real deal when it comes to contending for a Valley championship? Is there anyone that fits that category? Because that's what I would consider like a pretender. Is they've looked pretty good in the non-conference, but they're not. Maybe due to a weak schedule or whatever else, they're not going to be in the hunt for a Valley title.
Yes. That's one that, well, I don't know, Indiana State's probably done. UIC, they've played well at times. They're not going to be in the hunt, but I don't know I haven't followed them that closely, where they're at. But Missouri State's probably another one.
I think you've managed to name nearly every team in the conference at this point, which is fantastic.
It's wide open.
Yeah.
Belmont. Wes said there. Belmont. That's something they've like traditionally struggled with, just playing some defense. Fortunately for them, like last year, they could score 1 million points, which helped them a lot.
Well, unfortunately they recently let one get away because they had was it Cal Irvine? They were handling them at home, and they just can't play defense. And if they'd played a little bit of defense, they might have been able to hold Irvine off. But then they got to where their lack of defense started affecting their offense, and they weren't getting the bunnies that they had earlier in the game that gave them a pretty decent lead.
That's one thing I like about this Bradley team is in the past it's typically been we play great defense, but then we've struggled so much on offense that even when we play great defense, sometimes we haven't been able to find a way to win. Where this year, I think offensively we are really explosive, but we have a lot of room for improvement on the defensive end. Now, what makes me feel good about that is because of Brian Wardle's his system and being a defense first coach. I have confidence that we're going to improve a lot on the defensive end over the course of the season. I think it's easier to do that probably, at least in this system, than it would be to all of a sudden flip a switch and the offense is clicking.
Let me throw this to you and anybody out there that want to chime in on this. Do you believe that we are still playing decent, sound defense, but it doesn't appear to be that because we are without now Malawai and Hickman, two of the last several years, two of the key cogs in our defensive gear.
Well, those two guys definitely probably covered up a lot of mistakes that maybe were being made in other places, and it's really difficult to replace. I mean, Malawai's a pro, right? It's really difficult to replace that. Connor, I think Connor kind of got a bad rap here and there. but the guy was a competitor and he could defend at a high level. And like I said, it's hard to replace guys like that.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I still think we're playing decent defense.
defense is more of a team effort too. I mean, you can get by offensively if you have a guy that's hot or two guys that are hot. But with defense, it's all about communication. You see it in the NFL a lot where a defensive crew just doesn't get it together and you see them kind of lost out there. And so I think that over time, that gelling takes place. And I think that in conference play, they're going to continue to have more minutes, more reps with each other. I do think that it matters. I mean, the non-conference schedule, they're kind of all over the place, right? They're going to Vegas, they're going here, they're going there in Myrtle Beach. And it's like now at least they kind of know where they're going to be going. They know who they're going to be playing and they can get into a rhythm. And I do believe also with the conference schedule being pretty set in stone, right? Like there's 2 games a week for the most part. You kind of know there. And I think that communication gets better. And I think you're right, Brad. I do think that defense is easier to kind of sure up over the course of the season than offense. Sometimes offense is just hot and cold.
Yeah, for sure. And I've always believed that a lot of defenses just want to, right? It's just effort. And I know that there's scheme to it and X's and O's to it. And obviously some of these other teams are going to be doing things that make it more difficult. They're doing everything in their power to get open, and we have to do everything in our power to stop it. And I get those things are happening. But a big part of defense is just having the heart to play with great effort for not just on one end of the floor. And I think that if there's a program that is expected in, I think it's this one, right, under Coach Wardle. And it gives me a ton of confidence that things will continue to improve for sure. Because you can't, like I say, defense travels, right? You don't have to worry about what the shooting background looks like or whatever other factors about an arena or when it comes to playing defense. Defense is just hard-nosed effort, man.
Well, Mal was so consistent too that you knew what you were going to get every single night. And so you can play with a little bit different confidence because you know, hey, that guy's got it, right? Very rarely is Mal going to drop the ball defensively. And now you don't have that. And that sort of consistent effort isn't there. And it for the guys that played with him all those years, it does take a little bit to get used to that. At least I would think. And I think it's not just his defense, but I think it's the byproduct or the unintended consequence of not having a guy who, as you said, Brad, he's a pro. I mean, he's in the NBA right now and he's playing at a pro level. And you lose that, I think it shows itself in a lot of different ways, but I don't think that it's an impossible task.
No, definitely not. And I think coming off, talking about contenders and pretenders here is a good time to kind of highlight where some of these nets sit right now for different teams around the valley. So Dad, I'm pretty sure you said Drake was one of your contenders. They're sitting at 48. The Braves solidly at 65, followed by Northern Iowa at 79. Defenseless Belmont at 113. The team down the road, 116, and Murray State at 146. Is there a more like Jekyll and Hyde, hot and cold team than Murray State? Everyone beyond them sub 150. So we're not going to worry about that right now. But yeah, is there a team that's more hot and cold than Murray State?
I had them at number 2 coming in preseason based on their talent. I guess this goes not just to me, but to everybody. I mean, when you're looking to bring in talent, or players, recruiting, well, we need to get this guy. He's so talented. Well, there's a lot more to just talent. I mean, you can bring in all the talent. Like they've got a lot of very good talented players, but unless they're wanting to play together and play team ball, maybe throw a lot of that back to the coach. I know P-Town will, blame Prome for that. And probably, a lot of that.
He's had a lot of success there, though, through history at Murray State.
He's good at I think Kevin puts it Dana Ford 2.0. Bring it in.
That's harsh.
Can get talent, but
harsh.
Can get talent, but just can't get him to play.
He's a harsh man. What can I say?
Well, and that's what happens when you recruit talent and not team, right? It is. It's very streaky. They're a team that can beat anybody in the league and can get beat by anybody in the league. I firmly believe that. They're one of those teams. You say there's a team you don't want to play in March. But that's Murray State, man. Just because you just hope that they're so beaten down by the time March Madness rolls around that they're not too motivated to play well. But we'll see what happens over the course of the season.
Yeah, I'm beginning to believe that I think the teams that you don't want to play anytime is the teams that are balanced.
Yeah, see, Wes agrees with the Dana Ford comp, and maybe so. I mean, it's not. I guess it isn't too far fetched, but I feel like that's a low blow.
Well, yeah, it is. I don't disagree, and it wasn't me that originally said it, but I'm just giving one out there to Kevin.
I
You're
hate
out there
volatile
listening,
teams like
bud.
that.
Oh, Kevin's not listening. If he was listening, he'd be in the chat. He'd be
Yeah,
in
where the
there
hell is
blowing
he
it up.
anyway?
He'd be in there blowing up. That's all right. Kevin pulls no punches, so he lets it
Yeah.
fly. That's fine.
And he has been on the show
we
before.
love Kevin.
So
Yes.
Yeah, Kevin's
but
awesome.
I hate volatile teams that are up and down.
Well,
Like I really
yeah.
do. I hate teams that you're
it's-
like, if they could finish last or they could win the whole valley, and
that
you wouldn't be
brings up
surprised.
that made me think of another question to, like, if I had an opportunity to throw some questions at Coach Wardle. What kind of team would you rather face, or which team do you hate the most facing? Is a team that is up or down one player to the next, or a team that is balanced scoring, like a Bradley, like a Drake, like a hey, even Valparaiso? I'll get into that a little bit later too, but they're just not totally there yet. But
I would say that, so what pops into my head when you ask that question is, would you rather play like a Brian Mullins coach team or a Dana Ford coach team? Right. Like, exactly what you're going to get out of a Brian Mullins coach team. They're going to play great defense. They're going to be fundamentally sound, whatever else. And I think
they're still going to be tough to beat.
But I think he would say he would rather play a Brian Mullins coach team because you know what you're going to get. You know what you have to prepare for, where there's so many just like unknown factors when you play those highly talented teams. You just don't know if they're going to show up or not.
Yeah. Now those are the teams I'd say probably stress me out more.
Sure. Because it's like you're worried about this guy or that guy. Is this guy, and you just never know, I guess, who's going to come to play.
Well, because you have tape of them sucking, and then you have tape of them absolutely ripping.
Exactly.
And you're like, well, which of these teams is going to show up? If it's somewhere in the middle, we feel good about ourselves. But it's like, wow, their ceiling is really high if they all play well. But their floor is really low if they all play like shit.
Yeah.
So, like, which one is it going to be? As I would rather have consistency, because even if it's consistently good, you know what to prepare for. But when chaos, you can't prepare for chaos. And those are the worst teams for Bradley right now because they need to. Yeah, well, they struggled last year, but I'm saying this team, which was a favorite, and I think still is a favorite in the conference. I don't think that has changed no matter how good Drake has looked. I think Drake could be formidable, but we'll get to those games as we get to them, right? As we get into the Valley. But last year they had struggled with some of these teams, and like in Evansville, right? That loss at Evansville was terrible last year, and they can't really afford those as much this year. I mean, if they win Arch, fine. But we haven't gotten to that point yet. We have all these games to play. I hate teams like this. I'm going to put it here now. I'm not putting it into the ether, but I hate it.
Well, and I think I will say this much. I think that this team is more equipped to handle chaos or the Murray State type teams than maybe some teams in the past. Because I do think we're a little bit more athletic.
Not so much over Murray State.
But what I'm saying, I think maybe athletic, but what I'm thinking, like, we got some dudes that are just tough. Some guys that are like, hard nosed, like probably brought up playing like schoolyard basketball. I'm thinking like the Milwaukee guys, right? Darius and Damarian and Boley, like those guys, like they want that type of a game. I think they want a scrappy game where things are a little, flirting on that line between, structured basketball and chaos. I think those guys thrive in that environment a little bit. And I don't know that we've had the types of players to compete in those types of games in recent history like we do now. And now I know that two of them are young, but there are two guys that have shown that they're not afraid to play against anybody.
Yeah. Yep. We need another recruit from Milwaukee.
I love the Milwaukee pipeline, man.
Oh,
I absolutely love it.
Yep.
Well, Rick, get on that. I think we need to get you on the recruiting trail, get some of these guys in here. But Rick, once upon a time, you told us that anything within the net 300 was a solid win for the Braves. And so Valpo comes into town at net 213 on Sunday. And if Bradley can get this big win, obviously their profile is going to go sky high. So why don't you break down some of the key players, strengths, and weaknesses for Valpo before you go off on your PhD dissertation?
No, I was going to say, you're talking about, our metrics go up when we blow out weaker teams.
There you go. See, inside the 300's fine.
Yeah. So, But getting on to Valparaiso, they are, as I mentioned, they are a balanced scoring team. They have 4 players averaging double figures. However, the highest average is 13 a game. Got a couple at 12, one at 11. And other than that, they're at 9, 7, 5, 4 in that area. They are an 80.4 points a game scoring team, giving up 71.7. Bradley was a little bit better than that. Obviously, I think we're up near 80. Could be down from that. I forgot to check that one out. But as a team, 3-point percentage wise, Valparaiso shoots 34% on 279 shots. They make right at about eight a game. Bradley, on the other hand, is 45%, actually about 46 on 304 shots. Put up almost 12 a game. And let's see where else. Rebound, they out rebound us by about 3 a game right now in the averages. Turnovers, they have about 10. Steals 5. We have about 12 a game on turnovers, and we steal about 8 times.
I feel like
roughly.
I'm 10 years old again on a car ride home from Carver Arena.
Yeah.
Are we there yet?
Listening to Joe Stoll read the stats on 1470. He just turned 98.
Joe Stoll had some good stories putting them stats up there.
Did he just turn? It was his 98th birthday just the other day?
Something like that.
Rick, you're not far behind, buddy.
Yeah, no kidding. But no,
so
I mean,
with all those numbers, Rick, how about some names to go with these numbers? Some key players.
We got Schweiger. He is, minutes per game. No one's over 30 minutes a game. He's at like 26. Monegro's 29. What they put up, you see, he's Schweiger's a 29% 3-point shooter. Sep's 20. If we want to look at 3-point percentages, their best guy is Schmidt, 49% on 35 shots. So, and he's once averaging 12. Schweiger's the 8 rebounds a game. And otherwise, I mean, we could take care of the boards and we protect the 3-point line. They do have some, they pretty decent at block shots. But we got Schweiger, Sepp, Wright, Monegro, if that's how it's pronounced. Schmidt.
God, stop, please.
We got Schmidt. He's the 49% 3-point shooter. Then the rest are bench players. So, but other than that, I mean, they're solid. It's like I said. I mean, they're
solid, rock solid.
Yeah.
Hey,
rock
this
solid.
is a game. I mean, what as a longtime regular poster on one of the Bradley message boards says every biggest game of the year, right? Every game,
Always.
biggest game of the year. So, I mean, hey, the next one's always the biggest one, and it happens to be Valpo.
Well, it's one you can't lose. If you
agreed.
lose, my goodness.
I mean, because what happens if the Braves are 10-2? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to talk about that too.
Well, my thing, everybody talks about at large. So there goes the at large resume, and I'm one of those guys too. Like Valley's a one bid league, so on and so forth. But what if we run the freaking table, which is probably not likely, but it's possible. We run the table and you lose it in the championship down at Arch Madness. A 3-loss Bradley team, like how do you not?
It's been done before.
Ask Indiana State.
Well, Indiana State,
didn't they?
No, but I'm
Indiana
saying they were a great team that should have been in.
Sure, no, 100%.
Indiana
they
State,
were screwed by bid stealers.
Indiana State lost their bid by losing at home to Illinois State. And even though they won the game, but it took them overtime at home against Bradley, who had a chance to actually win the game in regulation, but we kind of stuffed it. But still, those two dynamics right there is what lost, part of what lost them. They lost 2 big games that they had to Alabama without Avila, and they lost on the road to
Michigan State.
State. You know,
This
so
this is such a tough conversation to have because my mind automatically goes to in conferences like this, especially mid majors, win your conference tournament, and I think that's the goal here. I think the Braves' goal is to win Arch Madness, make the
Leave
tournament.
no doubt.
Right. Because I don't think in today's day and age that you can let the committee decide for you whether you should get in. You should not ever leave it up to the committee because as we've seen in college football and we've seen in the NCAA tournament, more times than not, they're going to err on putting a Power 5 or Power 4 school in over a Bradley just because the dollars and cents is what it comes down to. And as much as I hate saying that on a forum like this, because we want to be positive, we want to say, well, yes, of course, if they have 3 losses, 4 losses, they should be considered for an at-large bid. But there's a lot of good teams in the country that are going to be up for consideration. And so when it comes to Valley supremacy, they need to win the damn Valley. That's all that they need to do. And it is the goal, but that should be the goal. And honestly, sometimes I feel like the chat about the at-large bid, we shouldn't even be having it because it almost it's
now.
an uphill battle. Well, yeah, now, but it's an uphill battle. You know this.
Well, and you and I saw, and it was probably what really painted the picture very clearly for me when we went to Charlotte to the NCAA tournament, and we're talking North Carolina was there, Texas was there, Michigan State was there, Tennessee were there,
Blue Bloods,
and obviously being in Charlotte, but a lot of Tar Heel blue. A lot of Texas orange, a lot of Tennessee orange, a lot of Michigan State green. I didn't see. I might have seen a person with a Wagner shirt on. Wagner was there as a 16 seed. I mean, so that's case in point. And I know Bradley fans would travel well, but
of course,
not on the level of these power programs. It's just the truth, and that's where you said it comes down to the dollar and cents, especially when you're talking about down to the last team in, and you've got 3 or 4 sitting in front of you. If you've got a brand compared to an Indiana State, of Bradley, whoever else, unfortunately, that's a battle we're probably not going to win.
Yeah, and it sucks because the NCAA tournament should be about hope, but in the end, even with all of these Cinderellas, rarely do the Cinderellas win the whole damn thing anyway. And so there's, I don't know, there's a whole dance that happens, no pun intended, whenever it comes down to teams like Bradley. But I think we're putting the cart way ahead of the horses on this one because we've got a lot of games to play.
Yeah.
This is a good team, and there is a lot of potential. So come the end of Arch Madness, we may not be caring about that because we may be in. But let me ask you, Rick, definitively, this is a game that Bradley should win pretty handily, correct?
Yes, I believe so. Double digits.
And of course, in order to do this, we need you to give us the meta stat line. You're not going to get out without that.
Meta stat line. I'm going to go 6 boards or 6 points, 5 boards, 1 block, 2 assists.
Excellent. How many fouls?
3.
All right, that's actually modest from you. I thought you were going to say 0 or 1. And I do appreciate you not giving ranges. Last time you said he was going to score between 6 and 20 points. And so we had a lot of wiggle room there just in case it had happened. But for everybody who's counting at home, there is your meta stat line. Next game after Valpo, January 1st, 2025, fellas. We're going to be in the new year, Indiana State. It's a road game, net 175, makes it look even better. And there's a lot to look forward to. Hopefully, in the new year, I can get out to Peoria. I can't make any promises with a lot going on, but we have a lot of Braves talk. We have a lot of games. We have a lot to look forward to between now and March. And before we get out of here, guys, what do you want to close with?
Well, I want to, encourage any of you listening that may hear this at some point in time. If you have any interest, those of you that are here, you're obviously diehard Bradley fans, and this is probably not your first time here, so you listen all the time. If you have any interest in coming on and being a part of this at some point in time to share your Bradley story, reach out to us. Reach out to the INC Sports page or any of us personally. And we'll be happy to set that up because
looking at you, Wes.
It's fun though. It's fun to get anytime we've had another person on. It's always been a blast because it just creates a whole new level of conversation, and it's not the same old BS from us that you're getting all the time. And
right.
It's nice to get a new voice in here to mix things up a little once in a while. So any of you that are interested in that, I mean, we're pretty. We all have busy schedules, but we're flexible. and
Awesome.
we can make almost anything work. So we'll do everything in our power to try to make it work if there's someone that really wants to come on and do this at some
I
point in
am
time.
somewhat of a magician with this stuff, but I can only do so much. But it doesn't even have to be live. If you want to come on and do something that's pre-recorded because the live scene isn't for you, there's many options. If you want to do audio only, many options to tell your story, and it'd be fun to share, honestly. So hopefully we can get as many people on here as possible. We did actually have a lot of people last year who were interested. Hopefully we're going to have some repeat offenders. I did talk with Matt McClain today. Hopefully we can have him on sometime before Arch Madness. He was a great guest last time. And I think that anybody who wants to come on here and be a part of this is for you. We say this every time, but this is for you. And so it's always nice to have a first-time listener here. But it's always great, man. I love everything that we're doing for this fan base, and I hope you guys enjoy it too.
Yeah, and I know we're not experts by any means.
No.
I mean, I know there's several of you that are
Well, two
in
of
the
us
X chat, and that are here tonight. Probably know far more about the ins and outs of the Valley and this Bradley team than we do. But I guess we just happen to have the technology to be able to bring it to all of you. So
I got a couple of
what do you
things.
got? Let's hear it, Dan.
Real quick. We went through the non-con schedule with one the one
back on this
Valley.
again?
Hey, no, hang on a second. No, real quick. The 8-2 record. When was the last time we only had 2 losses going into January?
I don't know if it's
Yeah,
happening.
it's snapping. It's me getting the intern over here to get the stats
Okay.
for us. So just hold on a second.
Yeah. So
Put it on the poll, Guillermo.
Yes.
Coach Wardle has the opportunity to finish a regular season with single-digit losses. Means less than 10.
I freaking hope so. If we lose 8 Valley
No kidding.
games,
No kidding.
I'm gonna be
That's
pissed.
part of my point. But then, okay, let's go to another super positive side. If anyone wasn't aware, we are sitting right now on a 10-game home court winning streak. Our
Jesus
last
Christ,
loss,
Rick.
Our last
is
loss
bad.
was
You
to
just
Drake
ruined
back in February
yeah.
10th.
Kicker curse right
No.
here.
Big
Mhm.
old wooden table.
Curse of the OG.
What
But
did you say the last loss was? To Drake?
was to Drake in February,
Mm.
Okay.
February 10th.
Yeah, I remember.
And
was
that
there.
includes the one home game in the NIT against Loyola. So we're on a 10-game home winning streak.
Which
Let's
isn't, I mean,
keep
really
it
though,
going.
in the scope of Bradley history, that ain't shit. I mean, it's whatever. It's what it is now, and let's build on it. But like, that's nothing to like write home about, right? A 10-game home winning streak.
Perfect way to end the show.
10-game home winning streak.
I'm just being
Always
like-
something to write home about.
Always.
And you write home again on 11 and then 12.
Thank you
That's
for that.
called a
But did
winning
you have
streak.
anything else? Did you have
No,
anything else?
those were my
Why
two
the mic's
things.
hot? Anything else you want to share with,
Those
with the
were my
people?
2 things.
Yes, I really think fireside chats with the OG should be something that we do, especially in the off season, so
We
people
got to
can
do
talk to
something
you.
with this camera. It makes me look like I'm looking.
Well, it's just because we got to change our setup a little bit. I like it, honestly.
I can't wait
Yeah,
for the
but
audio listeners to hear
It's
this. It's
making
gonna
my
be just
neck hurt.
amazing.
I'm
making
looking
your neck
straight,
hurt.
but it's making my neck hurt looking at it.
Well,
All right,
for
we need
everybody,
a chiropractor to sponsor.
I was actually
Braves
going to
Talk.
say we do need a chiropractor. If you have any suggestions for the OG whose head is turning a little bit too much looking at Brad, please give us any of those insights, any sponsors, whatever it is. But listen, everybody, you can find us on social media. You already know how to find us. If you've never listened to us before, which I highly doubt there's anybody out there who hasn't yet, you can find us on
Except
X. You
Aaron.
can find us on TikTok. Well, yes, but I think he's aware of us. I think that's kind of the idea. But we've had a lot of new people in here. If you want to listen to us, Apple, Spotify, just give us a rating, give us some words, say that we're amazing. They're not experts. They're kind of stupid, but the show is fire. That's all we're looking for, 5 stars and some nice words. So from me, from Coach, from the OG, we love doing it, but we'll see you next time, probably in the new year. This is Braves Talk.